So when I'm importing session data, what this does is it enables you to import tracks, audio, plugins, etc. from another session. If all you want to do is import audio from somewhere, then you can just use import audio. But, and that's Command-Shift-I. This one here is Option-Shift-I, which is import session data. And that's going to allow me to bring in tracks from somewhere else and like all the settings and everything. So for example, if I've got my drum template that I just made and I want to import my session data, I hit Option-Shift-I and it pulls up this, it says choose a file to import session data from. So I can go in here and I can say, all right, let's go into my sound, let's go into Pro Tools, projects. And in here, let's use, let's see, what do we got in here? Let's say I want to use some vocals from, actually let's use, here, let's not go to this one, let's go to teaching, and we'll go to my projects. Let's use Rubadoo. And we'll go in here to one of these, it's like a mix here. Mix, an older mix, and I just double click on it. And now it says, it tells me the session start time is earlier than current session data start time. To maintain the timeline positions, check adjust session time to match source data if you want to. So it's just basically warning you the start times are a little bit off. I don't need to worry about that because all I'm going to do is I'm going to import the plugins from this other session. But if I had audio on there that I want to make sure it lines up correctly, I can adjust that here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to find the track I want to import the data. So let's go down here to our vocals. Let's go to our main vocals here. Verse vocals here, and I can click on this. And now what I can do is I can click on all three of these. Actually, I don't need them all. I just need one. But I'm not going to import the playlist. I'm not going to import all the actual audio, but I'll do it both ways just to show you. So this import session data, what this is doing is it's giving me like information about my track that I'm bringing stuff over from. So up here it says, it tells me the name, it tells me what kind of track it is, like what kind of type of session it is. It's a current session, which is the most recent one. Who created it, what's the start time, the time code in frames per second, the audio bit depth, sample rates, all that stuff. And then over here, if we want to offset stuff, we can go map start time code to whatever, or we can just maintain our relative time code values. Like I said, it doesn't really matter that much. Track offset options if you want to offset that track. And then down here, media options. And this part's pretty important. We can link to, copy from, or consolidate from, and then force to the session format if I want to copy it over and make it everything, if I want everything to be 24-bit or 32-bit or something like that. We'll talk about these in just a second. And then we have our sample rate conversion. Again, if you want everything to be the same sample rate and you want to force it to be, then you can. But remember that Pro Tools, Logic, Ableton Live, they can actually use different bit depths and stuff like that in different sessions. So, but sample rates, I don't know, Pro Tools may still have a little bit of a weird issue with that. So you may want to force it to be if you know the sample rates are different. Hopefully they're not, but if they are, you can force it to be using sample rate conversion here. And I've already chosen which track I want to import. I just clicked on it here. If I want to bring in my data to some other track, I can pull it into a specific track already, but I'm not going to do that right now. And then down here, it asks what am I going to import. So I've got my tempo and meter map. I've got the key signature, markers, window configurations, mic presettings, heat, master settings, and then my playlist options. If I don't want to import my audio, I just click on this one. But if I do want to import my audio, I can click this one here. And I can also choose specific things to bring in. And you have different settings for these. And you can set these up yourself. So for example, if I want to have something like this, I can hold down my command key and click on 5, and it will overwrite whatever was on 5. So I can click on this one. Here's my default. Everything is on. This one here is just my plugin assignments. It won't actually copy over any of my audio data or anything like that. This one's all the stuff, other stuff, and this one here is back to the default basically. So I'm going to hit OK. Let's see what it does when I copy in my vocal data. And I hit go, hit OK here. And now it pulls in my verse vocals here, and you can see actually it didn't pull in any kind of plugins with them because there wasn't any plugin. I thought there was going to be more stuff on this one. But let me go ahead and put some on here. Actually here, let's well, I'll just try to find a different one here in a second, because I know some of these did have some stuff on them. So when I do this though, check out what happened. It actually brought over all the vocals that were on the track in the right place as well. So they're laid out there. And this is way different from importing your audio data, because the audio data would just import like one audio clip or two audio clips or something like that. This actually pulls in, yeah, it's really cool, Monique, I agree. This actually pulls in your audio data on and puts it on the track in the right place according to the old song. It doesn't know what the new song is doing. So if my new song, if I'm doing like a remix or something like that, I'd have to still move it around. But this is a really good way to kind of grab your data and kind of bring it in really quick. And you can see that it did bring in my sins over here as well. I didn't have any plugins on the track, so it didn't bring any plugins in, but we can fix that here. Let's say, for example, that I had some good drum stuff that I wanted to use for this session here. Option Shift I to import session data, and let's go into let's go into a different one here. Let's see if I've got this one here, and I'm not really sure which ones have things on them or not. So I'm just going to use this. I doubt this has anything on it. I might have to open up a session and just see what's on there. Actually, I know what I can do. I can go in here. Let's do this again. Option Shift I. Excuse me. And I'll go over here to my sound, and we'll go into my Pro Tools sessions. And we'll do the 8 drums 8 mic template. Open this up, that's fine. And I'll just grab one from my kick drum here. And what I'll do is, instead of bringing it into a new track, I'll bring it into my kick drum track, my current kick drum track here. I'll do that. And now I'm not going to import the audio data. Everything else should be fine. I hit OK. And we can see that it brought in, it changed the color, but it also changed my plugins that were on the track right there. So we can bring in just the plugins of stuff. So if you have a session where you like the plugins on a track for like your vocals or whatever, you can bring them in here. Now, in the notes, one thing here with the notes is that this talks about effects chains. And if you read the notes through, it's an interesting way to use the import session data, but now Pro Tools actually does have effects chains. And so it didn't used to have them. So I left this in here because it's just useful information. So, but I'm not going to cover it right now. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk about how to save these effects as a chain for Pro Tools. And what you do is you just click on the name of the track, right click on the name of the track, and go to, it's this great stuff. And then what you do is you go in here and you go to Save Track Preset right here, Save Track Preset. So I click on this and I say, okay, what is it? So this is a bass drum. Let's call this one Tony G bass drum settings 1, bass drum 1 settings. And in here we can say we're going to save it here, and I'll put it in my Tony presets. And you can put in here, and you can also tell it what you want it to recall. So I'm going to go over here. I'm not going to click all these things. I'm going to just click my plugin assignments and my bed objects assignment and toggle settings. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'll turn that off. All right, so I've just got these here. I just saved this by holding down Command and clicking on it. And now it's just my plugin assignments here. I'm going to hit OK and hit OK. And now anytime I want to pull up these plugins here as on a track, I just right click on that track and I go to recall Tony presets, and we'll go in here to Tony G bass drum 1 settings. And now it's going to pull those plugins up on that track, which is super, super useful. This is a great way to use this. And so if you are working with different vocalists and you're working with the same vocalist over and over again, like let's say you're working with 3 different vocalists, vocalist 1, 2, and 3, and you're working with vocalist 1 all the time, 2 all the time, 3 all the time, you can save settings for vocalist 1 and different settings for vocalist 2 and different settings for vocalist 3 with different compression, different EQing and stuff like that, which you'll tweak later, but it's just nice to have a good starting point for this stuff. And then you can recall it really easily. So that's super, super useful. I highly recommend it, getting to be friends with your track presets. And that's just down here when you right click on the track, save and recall your track presets right down here. Now, one other thing to explain about here is this audio media options. You had 2 options that were really important, link to and then copy from. Link to points to where the audio files are located on another drive or a folder or something like that. It's just pointing to it. So when I link to, it doesn't make a copy of it, and it's not inside my audio files folder. It's just on my whatever, wherever it was originally. So this is cool because it can save space, and the audio files are not in your current session folder. If we go here to copy from, what it does is it copies the audio from their source location into the current session folder. So if I have a file that starts off over here, it's going to actually make a copy and bring it over here into my Pro Tools session. This is great because it ensures that the audio files are with the session, but it takes up more space on your hard drive. Now, what I recommend as a rule of thumb between these is use link to most of the time, especially if you're not sure if you're going to use something. So it's great for checking out many files, grabbing sections from really big files, like if you've got a DJ mix or something, you just want to grab a little part of it, or a movie and you just want to grab a little part to sample, you can use that. Link to is really good for just grabbing that little section. And that way it's not going to copy the whole, whatever, 100 megabytes or 200 megabytes or a gigabyte into your audio files folder. Use copy from if you're using a few audio files that you know you're going to use in the session. You're like, oh, I'm going to use this shaker, I'm going to use this kick drum, I'm going to use this drum loop, whatever, I'm going to use this bass line. Then use copy from. It is really important that you kind of know what's going on with this stuff so that you can use these things effectively. So that's this link to and copy from. I highly recommend knowing what they do and using them appropriately. Cool. All right. And then let's stop that recording there.